What's going on, guys? Welcome to this episode of the Your Fifth Friend podcast, where we are believers that you are a combination of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And we're here to be your fifth friend and hopefully provide you with the education, knowledge, and hopefully entertainment necessary for you to live a better life and continue to grow within what you are doing. How are we doing, guys?
I'm feeling like a daisy. I'm excited to get it topped off. What are we talking about today?
Today, we're going to dive straight headfirst into it. A couple different things. I'm talking a little bit of stocks. So
Stonks.
We got Instacart Gate 2023.
Okay.
We got Klaviyo IPO that just happened maybe a week ago?
It was yesterday.
The announcement was like 2 weeks ago. The IPO was yesterday.
What's been happening over the past, I would say, year is that a ton of IPOs get bricked. And there's a couple ways that it happens. First off is like, let's say their last series, it's usually a D or an E or something like that before the IPO gets valued at, let's say, $10 billion. When it comes to the IPO valuation, it could be cut 20, 30, 40, 50%. So they could be IPOing at $5 billion versus their last round. So a lot of people are getting lower values before they go to IPO, and then it'll probably pop up for like a day or two and then suck back down. So all of that value that you've been building for however long your series and your investments and wherever has been going on with your valuation has been coming along, just shits the bed. So like a perfect example of the opposite of that, which is a really good sign of a strong company, is what's going on with Klaviyo. They were supposed to open up at $30 a share. Their first strike was like $32. It popped up to $39 and now it's floating around $34, $35. So they're valued at like $9 billion right now and they're chugging along. And what's really fascinating is the founder, the CEO, still owns 39%.
That's so high.
Of his fucking company post IPO. For people that aren't familiar with stocks, when you have a major founder or CEO or somebody that essentially started the company, after you go through your seed, series A, B, C, D, E, you get diluted. The goal is always grow as fast as you can, take as much market share, don't care about profitability, which I don't happen to agree with, but that's just the name of the game. At the end of it all, you're hoping that the valuation of the company is in the billions and you could still own, I don't know, anywhere from like 5 to 10, 15, 12% if you're lucky.
20 on a good day.
20 is really unheard of. Like really, it's like 7 to 10%, and that's being generous. But this dude has held on to more than 1/3 of his business post-IPO, which I find to be A, really impressive, and B, the business opened up higher than its initial IPO offering, and it's only been 48 hours, but it's still above that mark. I think that's a really good sign for any type of software that's built around e-commerce. And I think it's a testament to them for building such an incredible product.
Well, they built an absolute unicorn of a product in this space. I'm looking at it right here. At the end of 2022, they had 130,000 customers utilizing Klaviyo.
And their revenue is more than $400 million. So imagine this from a sense of metrics. You're housing 100,000 plus customers that are actively using your software. And some could say it's the lifeline of one of their revenue channels. Like Klaviyo is the email marketing campaign platform. With 1,000 plus employees, I think it's like 1,600, which is literally like the amount of employees that HubSpot has, if I'm not mistaken. They only lost $16 million, which is unheard of with how fast their growth trajectory is and all the legal fees of the IPO and everything that they have going on. You see companies that are making maybe $5-10 million in revenue, burning $15-20 million. These guys did close to $500 million in a year and lost 16 with all of the IPO costs. I think that they're going to get to a point very soon where they go profitable. And within the next 2-3 years, I bet they're going to make back all of the money that they've burned. And I bet their valuation, once the stock market corrects itself and makes sense of it all, the valuations will double or triple. I see that in the next 5 years.
I got some conflicting thoughts because I think Klaviyo has done a great job of being the leader in the email space, in the e-commerce space. However, have they really innovated their product over the last few years? There's a couple things that they've added on, but it's not really innovation. They added SMS features. They've improved their kind of analytics reporting. What else have they really done to provide value to their customer base?
Well, they're responsible for probably, at least with email and SMS, like 30% of all revenue for, in this case, 130,000 plus e-commerce brands as of June 30th, 2023.
So they're important.
So and they're kind of, at least the email function of what they're doing, it's like in a market of one. Like they were competing with MailChimp early on. MailChimp was previously the leader of all things email marketing before Klaviyo existed. And then when Shopify took over all the market share from like the WooCommerces of the world and all of that type of stuff, these guys just saw that opportunity. Like, all right, we are going to be email for this Shopify thing. And they doubled down on the ecosystem of just going and riding the coattail of Shopify. And it's like massively, massively paid off. They took risks when other people weren't willing to. And when you're at this point of 130,000 customers, as well as the fact that they're heavily integrated within all the technology, as well as the fact that they are so in bed with all of the email marketing agencies that most of these e-commerce brands are leveraging internally, it's like they have such a massive competitive moat on the email marketing side of things at this point.
You also have to bear in mind that Shopify owns 11% of Klaviyo. So imagine how both of them work with each other. If you're talking about a partnership, that's the golden child of what a partnership should be.
I think Shopify does that with a lot of the
they
tech
just did it with
companies that are in the
Amazon.
space.
They just did it with Klaviyo. Well, not just did it with Klaviyo, but they make these significant investments in them early, and then they both drive each other forward, if that makes sense. Like, you can't run your web page without Shopify, and you can't run your emails without Klaviyo. When I think of email marketing, I think of Klaviyo. I don't think of MailChimp. I don't think of SendLane. I don't think of ActiveCampaign, which they could all be great, don't get me wrong, but they've really established that for themselves. And Arman, to your point, what have they done to innovate? I take the stance of they're doing what they're already doing so fucking well. Why would they want to do anything to potentially fuck it up? It's one of those, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Now, does that leave opportunity? And I see the look on your face. Yeah. Does that leave opportunity for somebody like SendLane to come in and to plug in all these different features and to take market share and to become a potential competitor on like a really massive one-to-one level? It could be. But as it stands, I don't think that their strategy is let's just continue innovating as much as we can. It's let's become profitable and bring back money to the shareholders. And I think that that's where they've been at for the past couple of years.
What they could also do is now they're public, they have more money in their pockets. They can be acquiring some of these new emerging technologies and adding it to their stack. I think, yes, they have grown a tremendous business. They are, I think, the biggest SaaS provider in e-commerce, right? Outside of Shopify and, Amazon, and they do more than just SaaS, but yeah, they're the biggest SaaS provider in e-commerce, and they've done a great job of getting to where they are today. But where you are today is not where you can be in 10 years. If you continue to do what you're just doing for 10 years, eventually someone's going to come eating your lunch.
But if you think about the ecosystem, like think about what e-commerce brands are using to drive revenue. It's email, it's SMS. Those are two of the major drivers. And then there's like the ad side of things. Like those are the three major revenue drivers for an e-com brand when it comes to like multiple.
Could be influencers, but
yeah, when it comes to like the double-digit percentage of their revenue, it's those three things, and they're involved in two of the three things. So it's like they just need to continue penetrating more of that. Like the question that we're kind of asking is like, what does Klaviyo do in order to double their revenue? What do they need to do? Is it acquire the next 130,000 brands? Maybe not. Probably not. That's a lot of penetration there, and it's going to continue to happen, but it can only go at whatever rate it can go at. Right now, what I'm looking at here, though, which is interesting, and then look at their S1 report that just got published. 14.8% of their customers use their SMS functionality.
That's underutilized.
14.8, which is really, really low, because I would imagine that of their customer base, 50% at least, 60% of them at least are probably utilizing a SMS provider at this point, whether it's the attentives, the SMS bumps, the postscripts, or anything like that. 14.8% is too low. And the question is, how do they go ahead and expand that number? Because that's where there's a ton of margin built in as well too, is just to expand the amount of contacts you're reaching out to via SMS.
So this is the interesting opportunity, Arman, where you're saying, can they go in and acquire companies? They could be acquiring an Attentive or a Postscript, bringing all of them on, making everything unified and take it to the hills.
What if this is why I thought I was driving here, so I was thinking about this. What if they did what is their version of like hostily taking over the SMS marketplace? Like, what if they did some shit? I don't know what it would need to look like. What if they did some shit like the way that, Apple made it so your text messages are blue if you're using Apple products? You know what I mean? It's like you're green, your group chat stopped working. It's like they did something to like hostile take over the phone marketplace. What is Klaviyo's opportunity? Because they're positioned so large that they will not lose customers from Klaviyo moving over to something else. If they were to do some sort of thing to hostily take over the opt-in and to get SMS owned on their end of things, it would be a risky ass move. And I don't know what it would look like, but they wouldn't lose Klaviyo customers for that. People would migrate over. Migrating your SMS is a very easy thing to do. There's not that much depth there. There's not that much creative there.
Is not hard.
It's 160 characters. It's not that crazy to be able to do that. Like, I would love to see what Klaviyo would be capable of doing to when it comes to like really hostily taking over that business, buying out contracts, continuing to expand that product and make it better. Because this 14.8%, SMS probably drives as much revenue for some brands as email. And it's like, how do you?
I bet SMS does more, way more.
Yeah, I mean, you probably have less opt-ins for SMS. So that's what I'm saying, like overall value might be a little bit less. We used to obviously send a ton of SMS, so it was a big value driver for some of the brands that we ran. But at the same time, it's like there's a massive opportunity for them to be able to create huge lifts on revenue numbers by selling way more text messaging and take this 14.8% and doubling it.
Yeah, I mean, a couple things to ask is like, is the UI product within the SMS like a solid UI, UX compared to some of the other competitors? Why do people choose
You're
some
saying
of the
the dashboards?
However you build and implement and set up your live chat, not live chat, the SMS, why are people choosing other options? If Klaviyo is the most recognized...
They were late. They were just late to the game is what it was. The Attentives and Postscripts were there first. I remember going to the first ever Klaviyo event, and it was in Boston. I listened to the CEO of Klaviyo talking, like, this guy's a fucking genius here. But I talked to my account manager at the time, and I'm like, hey, account manager, this is at the time when we built out our own Twilio SMS tool ourselves. And I hired a developer off Fiverr to build a basic front end that I could plug people into and send text messages before any of these text message providers are out there.
Years before.
And I talked to my account manager, hey, when are you guys going to launch SMS? And they were like, hey, it's too intrusive. People are not going to bite into it. People are not going to buy into it. It's not something we're going to do. And then you see some no-name messages, companies come up. And then you see the shop messages come up, which was the Instagram Messenger. And then you see the Postscripts and the Attentives come out. And then Klaviyo is like, oh, fuck, there's an opportunity. It looks like this adoption's actually happening there. People are actually okay with getting text messages in their life. And now it's dude, every Shopify Plus brand, I bet 80% of Shopify Plus brands are using SMS at this point, at least.
Where Klaviyo's winning, for me personally, is I love the workflows that they build and the amount of data and granularity that you could plug into contacting whoever the fuck you want to. What Postscript does really well with SMS in particular is those workflows are built the same, it's super robust, the same way that Klaviyo is. So I'm wondering why people don't switch over. And I think it's due to, and call me crazy for this, but if you remember, if you even look at Attentive or hit their webpage, here's a $7,000 gift card so you can have a conversation with me. And what we'll do is we'll knock off 1 or 2 months free full of text messaging. Whatever that offer
Strong
is.
incentives in the front end to lure them in.
Hold on, do I have my AirPods? No, it was the AirPods.
It was
you
the
get an AirPod for
AirPods.
jumping on a demo.
But they also give you a free month or two of text, and you could do unlimited text. Now, if you're little fish in the pond, no big deal. But let's say you're a CB2 or a Macy's or Nordstrom, whatever the fuck.
How many text messages did you send personally when you got a free 2 months of Attentive?
I went so hard on it. Literally every day I sent text to everybody. Whether it worked or not.
Great experience for customers.
I'm just going to milk the fuck out of them. Obviously it wasn't that intrusive, but you get the point. I really milked it. When I have that type of experience and I've already set up all of the back end, I don't feel like building out workflows again and moving over unless I have some type of incentive to do so. I was incentivized to come in, then I was incentivized to stay, and now they'll work for me to switch from one to the other. Like that does not, if it's going to cost the same, I don't give a fuck. It's already working.
So I think you just kind of said what I think is why people aren't switching is because not only the time that it takes to switch, but like there's a customer experience aspect that I feel like, some of these brands like Attentive, Ashton, you remember how they were more hands-on when we got onboarded with some of these specific providers. They helped through the onboarding experience. They help with setting up the campaigns. With Klaviyo, does anyone help with setting everything up, or it's just kind of like a software? Like, do you get like that hands-on support?
They
from
rely
Klaviyo?
on the marketing agencies to put it together for you, or it's
like the
you just figure it
Salesforce
out.
model,
Like
right?
HubSpot.
And HubSpot, yeah.
I know we're supposed to talk about Instacart. I really don't want to talk about them, but this liaisoned into something that's really interesting that's been drilling a hole in my brain. I haven't mentioned it to either of you, by the way, so it's a completely fresh topic. What you just talked about is what I think the future of software is going to be. As technology grows faster, as APIs, open APIs get stronger, it's going to be way easier to build the same softwares that were almost impossible to build a couple of years ago, make it really straightforward to build today. Yeah. So what the fuck is going to be the difference between what you have going on and what your competitor is if you're in the SaaS space? And I really think it's about migrating the thought of software and service into a single unit.
Of course.
Let me define that. This is just my world because it's bookkeeping, sales tax. There's two really good companies, or not really good, but like really known companies out there. One of them is TaxJar. One of them is Avalara. They're both softwares. Every single person that I talk to, whether they're a client or a prospect, they always ask me, is there something better? I don't want to use them anymore. They're super expensive. Nobody on customer service is good. I send an email. I don't get an answer. Just shits the bed every single time. And this is for a company that's public in Avalara's world. And this is a company that was purchased by Stripe, which is a multi-billion-dollar company. They're shitting the bed with their providings because they've been around and they can just charge people and they don't need to put any legwork into it. It's the person that's going to come in that's like 80, 90% software with supremely strong customer service, which ties into what you guys got going on, and a beautiful onboarding experience as the service side to really win and take you to the next level. Otherwise, it's just a ton of software. So you could pick any provider and it's just going to do what you want it to do. But people want that catered feel and to feel like somebody's got them, to have that, I have a question. I know I'm going to get an answer.
So for a business like Klaviyo, if they're not set up from a service perspective, they're very much set up from a software and innovating their software or trying to innovate their software more. The competitors that are out there, they absolutely should be focusing on the service side with the software. So do they change? Do they adapt? What does that mean for Klaviyo? If you're investing in Klaviyo right now, you're putting money into a stock hoping that they're going to grow. Why would you invest in a Klaviyo if they're already matured from our perspective? We talked about SMS as an opportunity, but why invest in Klaviyo?
Well,
Market share.
I think as the Shopify ecosystem grows, they grow. As the brands that they're working with grow, they send more emails out and they grow. As they get more SMS adoption, they grow. Right now, as they continue to grow internationally across the other countries, they grow. As SMS becomes largely penetrated internationally, SMS is penetrated in the US. It's really not that penetrated as deep in like Australia, UK, all of those markets.
A lot of laws around
There's
it.
a ton of regulations, yeah.
But as that opens up new revenue opportunities, Klaviyo, like, it's just think about the maturity of these brands. Like, the majority of their brands are SMBs, they're small businesses. And as those become mid-market, the mid-market becomes enterprise, the enterprise becomes larger, and like e-commerce grows, like they will grow from just that alone.
So market share. You can bundle that all into market share.
Unless the sour cousin comes in and starts doing things a little bit better.
I think what SendLane is doing is sick. I don't know if you guys know the founder. He pops off
Jimmy
on
Kim,
Twitter.
yep.
Yeah, Jimmy Kim. That's his name. I was going to say Jimmy Choo, but that's a shoe brand. Wet Jimmy. He does a really good job at making the software and the service and the customer support behind it come together hand in hand really nicely. He is the leg, or not he, but like his team is the leg that if you come in and you're a newbie and you don't know what you're doing, they will help build your flows. They will help set you up. And the cost is considerably less and the barrier to entry is lower than using Klaviyo. So what Ashkan, you're talking about right now, it's SMBs that are trying to move up into the Richter scale. If they can capture a ton of people that are just starting out, groom them and help them grow, they're going to take a big chunk of that market share, and then things could switch over to Klaviyo just being for, I don't know, $1 million plus companies.
I do want to point out, I'm looking at Store Leads right now. Shout out to Tyler from Store Leads. But they're
one of the best, most beautiful people of all time.
People of all time. Emailed him yesterday. He gave me a great response. But anyways, according to this, they have 262 customers. And I mean, I have Shopify, Salesforce, Commerce Cloud that I'm pulling in data from. But
So they're a spec.
262 brands in comparison to 110,000.
That sounds so unrealistic to me.
It might be higher. This is what I'm getting over here. Maybe they're failing to scrape all the data, but that's what I'm seeing from Store Leads right now.
I mean, you can compare the difference between their number and Klaviyo's number and get a ratio. Like even if they're not.
Klaviyo's shows is 100,000 plus.
Yeah.
That's what this is here. It's 262.
So that's what 0.25 of 1%.
So I'm redacting everything nice that I just said.
But I think what the opportunity potentially is, what I think would be interesting though, is what if these email marketing platforms or the SMS, like what does Klaviyo do and what does it not do? What it does is, and what do people want? It gives you all the tools to succeed, right? It gives you playbooks. It gives you these you click here and it like unlocks the flow. It's a flow library, which I thought was always really, really cool that Klaviyo did. And I always told the SMS providers to do as well too. But what it does not do is like showcase wins. And I think that
if they had an ad library like Facebook, is that where you're headed towards?
Yeah. Like I think publishing I think there's
really
an opportunity for like them to own like a really good emails. And then also for them to own the ability to share that information at scale and share more data there. And if you do that and you make it available for customers of this tool, that becomes interesting because what does every e-com worm want? They want the edge. They want to see what the best are doing. And you can, I can go and pull that data in myself and create it by just opting into all these newsletters and figuring out a way to do that. Or you could be the transparent platform and share it. And as a brand, will you get pissed off? Potentially, but it's also a shared network. You know what I mean? And you can choose what to disclose and what not to disclose. If you don't disclose
the
revenue,
content is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think people don't know where they stand against
the big
metrics.
Hitters. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't know if you're in the top 10%, top 1%, bottom 50% on where you stand
Really
with
good
these
point.
metrics. But being able to see that and then also the real data of what's being said is interesting.
When you gamify it, there's win-wins on both sides. I'm imagining when Facebook ad library came out that there were a couple really butthurt merchants. But the other part of that is if you're a young and up and coming brand or even a big brand, how much more often are you testing new ads, putting money behind it, trying new things and trying to hop from where you're at to the next level? Imagine what you would be doing with the amount of emails that you send if you had that opportunity.
I think it would be
That's a
increasing
really
the
good
amount
idea.
of email send rate, I think, very, very heavily. Like I think people would be sending more email because people lack the inspiration a lot of times. And I think that'll be a huge thing for the end product.
It'll make it a better experience for the consumer too, because you see what's really good and the level heightens up. And now if you're selling product via email because it's a good fucking flow.
And you can choose to disclose what you do want to disclose and what you don't want to disclose. And it doesn't need to be the same brand you're picking on every single time, but I think just more showing the good, like and breaking it down and making that be the content. And maybe that content goes to a certain cohort of member. Maybe they pay for that. Maybe it's a paid new, I don't know. It's a software company at the end of the day, but maybe it's like, that's why you go to Shopify Plus type of thing.
So what does a retention.com do that Klaviyo doesn't do? That's what I'm trying to understand. Retention.com is all about finding people that have been worming on your website.
They're not opt-ins.
That are not opted in.
And displaying them as people that you could email.
Well, they are opt-ins. They're
opt-ins to your brand.
They're not opt-ins to your brand. They're opt-ins
What, to
through
a sister company?
That's where the technicalities of when you get someone to opt in to a network, they can share that with like partners of partners. Like that terminology allows a retention.com to get that data and use that data across a plethora of clients and brands and customers.
Why the fuck doesn't Klaviyo offer something like this?
It's a little too wormy. These guys they're freaking public at this point. They have stockholders to pay attention to. Like that's like pretty wormy stuff.
Do you think there's going to be regulation around this?
There's going to be the SMS opt-in stuff is so real. The email opt-in stuff is pretty damn real as well too. I think that you don't like as a big company like Klaviyo and the billions like that, like it's kind of like HubSpot. Like they try to maintain order with their product. It's not like these sales email tools. Like they don't play in that ballpark. They play in a more legit, more regulated ballpark. And I think that that's for sure the reason why.
That's a good point. There's just got to be, well, doesn't retention.com get a lot of their information from Klaviyo? Like, is it feeding through from that end? Like, what implications does some type of data breach from another company coming into Klaviyo and scraping data have an implication on them?
I don't understand the question you're asking.
Let's say retention.com somehow is getting information from Klaviyo through some type of bootleg API.
That's not what it is. It's a matter of like, let's say that I want to, like a couple of different things that could be happening. Number one is I could like just like a Pixel does. I don't necessarily collect your email address, but I have your device ID and some other thing like your browser footprint or fingerprint or whatever the hell those things are called. And now maybe you're opted in on someone else that's in my network. And I know that Saman@Ottit.co is your email address over here. And a company that's not opted in, they were opted in before. And now I see they had my Pixel on that website. Now I'm on another website that also has the Pixel.
There's a matching.
And I see that this fingerprint, this device ID is back. Well, now I know whose email address this is without them having to opt in.
Okay.
I can now queue this up for a message to go out. Now, this is not marketing opt-in necessarily. The customer is not opting in to talk to you at all. And it's not the ideal customer experience. That's one side of the coin. Now, from a brand's perspective, it's really, really valuable to send messages to those people. That's email opt-in or that you can reach out to that you weren't able to reach out to before, and you can create really strong experiences there.
I just think it's so interesting. Well, like what happened 5 years ago to what's going on now is a completely different universe, and the same thing is going to happen in the next 5 years. But I wonder what the trajectory is. Like, I can't even put my mind to what will come up next, which is really exciting because there's always something new to look forward to.
I think it's the micro that's changing at the macro. At the end of the day, it's a bunch of my moms that are just trying to buy exactly what they want online, right? And what's going to get that experience to be better is really what it comes down to. How is it going to become better for the brand? No, really, it's
just going to become way more personalized. Every experience is going to be hyper personalized. You're going to go onto a website and it's going to be curated based on browsing behavior that you'll have from other websites, that it learns your persona and gives you a customized and curated experience.
Yeah, we're just trying to mimic the in-store experience at the end of the day, right? So when you walk into a store, you have someone that's there, they're your concierge. If you have questions, they're there to answer any of the questions during your shopping behavior. They're there to suggest things to you as you're browsing.
It's going to be better,
this shirt. Yeah, it's going to be way better.
It's going to be better than an in-person experience, because imagine if you have all of the data on your shopping behavior. Imagine you can create, right, we're going down the line, you're in a virtual store, and this virtual store for this brand is optimized based on your exact preferences.
Are you talking virtual store like web page or like metaverse type of walk-in?
I think in the future, it's going to be that environment. It's going to be, you're going to have the ability to tap into that. I think it'll start with website with the ability to go into that virtual world. You'll go on a website, you'll click on a button, you'll go into this virtual world, and you can kind of, see that. And then eventually commerce will be originating from this virtual world because more people are going to be on it. We're ahead of its time right now, but it's going to happen.
We're literally going to live in a Sims simulation.
Yeah,
the world is going to be RuneScape in the next couple of years, if this is the direction we're headed towards.
Who knows?
There's a lot to think of there. I think it's you should absolutely be paying attention to all of it, right? I'm not saying you're going to go in and you're going to be in this, Facebook meta world and you're going to be doing this every day, but you should be following what's happening and getting a taste of it. And I think with any new disruptive technology, you would be foolish not to taste it.
Yeah, you got to try. You got to dip your toe in the sand or in the water.
I think the final question to get back to here is, do you invest in Klaviyo or do you not?
I wouldn't invest in Klaviyo right now. I would wait for it to cool off a little bit.
This is not financial advice. This is not financial advice.
Sasan Stonks does not have his Series 7, even though he makes more money than the guys with the Series 7. Anywho, so I see a lot of momentum with IPOs when they first drop on or when they first hit the market. And then there's a big drop off period. Like we saw, for example, FaZe. You guys are familiar with FaZe Clan.
Yes.
They came in, they zooted it up to $20. Now they're worth like 40 cents. Like that is a 99% absolute bend over ass raping. Like it was fucking terrible. Now is the time to see, well, if this company is still as good as it was when it IPO'd, for you to purchase it because now the upside potential is really large. I think the same exact thing for Klaviyo. It's going to have a good week or so. It's going to cool off. It's going to stabilize. Market conditions have a lot to do with it more than even the performance of what the company is doing. So you have to look at the macro. You have to look at what the business is doing. You have to wait for the cool off period and then you put your money in.
Okay, so until
the perfect
then,
opposite example of this is you and Twilio.
I'm a lifer with Twilio. I told you my story about Twilio. They were allowing me to send my text messages before the attentives and the postscripts and the Klavios.
I understand the sentiment.
I built it on Twilio. They have a special place in my heart, and I will never sell until they go bankrupt.
And then you put 90% of your net worth in, and now it's down 90%.
Let's see where I stand with Twilio. Give me a second here.
While he's doing that, though, jokes aside, as much as you love the company, I think the company has to prove itself to the market before you want to put your hard-earned money in. I really do believe that.
Down 76%.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to some of the conversations that we had on this podcast about what type of investor do you want to be? Are you that person that just is chasing the next opportunity because it's flash dancing and it's just right in front of you, right? You got to be someone that, understands what your investment objective is. And I would not invest in Klaviyo right now, not financial advice again, but you got to be thinking long-term when it comes to investing. I think unless you're going to be a day trader, unless you're going to be following the swings and like that's your day-to-day, I would not be investing in Klaviyo right now.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. But even more than that, for anybody that wants to invest in the stock market, you have to understand that the business performance, as much as it may seem, what it should be is that if the business performs well, if it's profitable, if it's making moves, the stock goes up.
That's how it works.
That's not how it works. So you have to understand the environment that you're in. Your $10,000, maybe $5,000, whatever, your marginal investment is not going to make the stock move. Institutional money is. And institutional money will flow in and flow out however which way they desire. And market conditions is also something to consider. So I like to invest, and I know this is the opposite way of doing it, but I like to invest based on market conditions and what's going on with institutional money rather than, regrettably, the legitimacy of a business and how well it's growing.
And then on top of that, you can still, knowing that market conditions are, let's say we're expecting it to, improve and we're in a place where it's downswinging, but we're expecting it to improve in the future. You should still invest in companies that you see long-term growth opportunities for them to grow. Back to Klaviyo, do we see long-term growth opportunities? I think from what we said, yes, we do, right? There's definitely opportunities for them to grow in a lot of those key areas. I think from a service perspective, they're not where we think they could be. I think from a content perspective, lots of opportunities around that. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We're not experts in knowing what the future holds, but I think there is interesting things to look out for. If you're using Klaviyo, you're probably getting a lot of value out of it. Yeah. But I'm always looking for what's next. And I think there are going to be other players that are going to come in that aren't going to be that spec anymore. They might take 8%, 12%. 20% market share. Who knows? We'll see.
I like to think about innovation just to finish this off. You look at Salesforce and then you look at HubSpot. What would you say the better CRM is or the more innovative CRM?
HubSpot.
HubSpot, right? HubSpot is the number 2 provider. Correct. Salesforce is still the head honcho.
They're like, I don't know how many times bigger. They're probably like what?
I think legitimately at least 3 times bigger.
Yeah.
I think their market cap is probably in the high teens or in the low 100 billion mark. Then you look at a company like NetSuite, Oracle, right? It's a very, very old and primitive system, but they're still the head honcho. It's a multiple $100 billion business. I think it's 300 plus. But then you look at the QuickBooks of the world, you look at all of the other ERPs that are coming around, and there's a lot of competitors in the space that are probably making a better product than them. But why do they stick around? It's Ashkan, to your point. They have the market share. They have the enterprise clients. And as those companies continue to grow, the originators and the people that have been there first are going to stick around.
And as the users of that, once you have a certain point of user base, as that customer moves to a new org, it's the tech that they become used to as well too, and they carry it. And it's the idea of the champion client of yours moving from org to org. And like we see it happen all the time with TalentPop, where we'll have someone that was a head of customer service at company A, they'll move over to company B, and guess what? They're going to bring TalentPop over to company B as well too. And I think that that's something that like you can't undervalue.
You're saying the retention of their employees?
No, what I'm saying is, let's say that Nike is using Salesforce. Well, they have 20 execs at Nike that are used to it. When these 20 execs move over to another corporation and they're looking at the new CRM or sales tool to install.
Oh, they're going to move what they're used to.
Yeah, exactly.
Over.
And the same thing with e-com. If you were a e-com director of marketing and now you work at these 10 e-com startups over here, you are going to bring the technology that you were used to. So I think there's just that piece of like, once you have a certain degree of ownership of the market share, it's hard to slow that down. Yeah. Really difficult to slow it down. Just
a correction. Salesforce is 9 times bigger than HubSpot. 200 billion versus 24 billion. I think HubSpot used to be a little bit higher, but I believe when I just checked it a second ago, 24 billion market cap versus 200. Yeah, that is a crazy differential.
That's almost a 10x.
Salesforce wouldn't take a phone call with me.
Dude, they email me all the time.
You don't deserve.
Yeah, now they call me.
No, you don't deserve a call.
And I curve them now. You didn't want me when I was small. You don't deserve me when I'm big.
You don't deserve a phone call from one of their Indian SDRs.
They tried to send me over a recorded demo instead of taking a call with me. I was like, dude.
Another thing that I think, just going to Salesforce versus, we're talking about it a little bit here. Salesforce has done a better job than HubSpot in acquiring companies. They've acquired Slack. They've acquired Tableau. They've acquired other companies, I think Demandware. They've added a lot of added features to their stack based on acquiring other companies. And I think that approach is also how you build enterprise value as an organization. And like HubSpot, like they've made some smaller acquisitions.
I think what it comes down to is
not like them.
They bought out Sam Parr.
I bet company count growth is probably happening higher on HubSpot, like growing at a more rapid rate on HubSpot. But I think that like enterprise account growth is continuing to raise within Salesforce. At the end of the day, HubSpot's a better, what's the value prop? It's more user-friendly.
Yeah.
But like an enterprise doesn't give a fuck about user-friendly. Like they're okay to have their 4 in-house Salesforce developers building out the tool necessary because it's performance-driven.
For sure.
And if it's going to perform it a little bit better, based off the amount of data you have access to, the amount of nimbleness that the tool is. And HubSpot's getting more and more nimble with their tool and continuing to adjust and add more and more things. But I think it's got a long way to go when it comes to the customization that something like Salesforce has.
You also have to think about, let's say you're Apple. This is a wild example, but you have 100,000 employees. Imagine switching over from Salesforce to HubSpot, changing everything, training 100,000 people on how to use it. It's virtually impossible.
The switching costs are crazy.
Even forget, let's say HubSpot says, I will take care of all of the costs.
But I'm talking about the switching costs in terms of the training, right? When you switch, what are the associated costs with switching? It's not just the software and the build out for the software. It's training,
integrating people,
the time that it takes. There's so much that goes into when you make a change like that. At that level of organization size, it's like almost impossible to switch out of it.
Yeah, I don't see any scenario where that would be a good thing to do, even if one software is superior. It just doesn't make sense. Ashkan, you got one more topic for us?
All right. Next topic that I have over here, and I think that a lot of people can learn from this. I do a lot of what I call like shooting my shot. And it's like
sniping.
Yeah, like I think you find some interesting people in some interesting places. And I think oftentimes people might find those people, but they don't shoot their shot and like say what's up to those people and make the ask and have a conversation. And typically when you ask, you get what you ask for. I probably, and when this is coming to like bringing on really, really great people that are really passionate and do excellent work.
You're talking about hiring talent.
Hiring very niche talent though. Technical talent, like really, like this is where it's been really, really good for me. When you're looking for a developer, especially as like a startup or like a fast growing company and you want things to move quick, you don't want to hire the guy that was part of a 20-person product team over at Apple. Mm-hmm. They're used to things moving slowly and being absolutely perfect. And then you can move on to the next point. Or like at Google, like what you really want is a freaking worm. You want someone that's building code in a dark room in their dungeon, right? Underground, lights off.
My mouth is salivating.
Just drinking Mountain Dew.
This is figurative.
Eating potato chips.
No, this is fucking literal.
That's what you want. And the question is like, and why? Why first? And we'll go to the question, like some questions. The reason why you want to bring on that person is because that person is doing this for sport. They're not doing this for work. They are passionate about coding, developing, and making and creating things. And those people don't typically work at like the Googles, or they get Googled out. You know what I mean? They change at that point when they get into like, they get institutionalized.
It's too soft of a fucking environment, and you get a lot of burden lifted off of your shoulders because of the sheer volume of people.
They get institutionalized. Where do you find these just super worms there? And it's like, you go to these like creative parts of the internet. And like, I wanted to have a piece of software built. We have our own, I think 5 engineers now internally at our place at TalentPop building up various products internally. And we have a huge desire and need to grow that out, to grow new sales tools, new marketing tools, new recruitment tools, new customer success tools. And we need to build these things in-house ourselves. So what I've been doing is I've been looking at like forums of where we can find like some pre-created low-code tech. And then what I found was these like underground, as I go into my rabbit hole, I found these like underground like Discord groups of a bunch of just lurking coders that are just there building interesting product out. And you go, and these people are from all over the world. The person I'm talking to right now is from Ecuador. You know what I mean? We have a ton of Pakistan on our team. Ecuador is a really interesting place as well too. And with these forums or these Discords, like you could literally build, like, I want to build this technology out. If you're in, reach out to me. And you're going to have someone that is diehard passionate, that's done this before. If you're in the right group, that's done this before, that knows exactly what you're building out. And they will reach out to you and they will just bid on this project and they will want to work and get this project done. And then you're doing things on a project by project basis, which I love when it comes to development, because then you're not dealing with hours being spread out, paying per hour for things like that. You are finding someone that is going to get things done according to project closure date. And they are incentivized to close this project out because that's when they get paid. They will get paid when the work is all done and completed. And I think that's an awesome way for you to be able to scale some of these independent projects that you're looking to launch, and bring on people that are absolutely passionate. I've done this with like our head of all things development at this point at TalentPop. She was like my account manager at another like wormy company that I tried to engage with to help us out with like our sales outbound. And I was like, dude, this girl is absolutely phenomenal. And we stopped working with them because it was just like the relationship with them. They just weren't moving at the speed that we needed them to work at, but she was great. So I reached out to her afterwards and I was like, hey, we're looking to build out some products internally. Do you know anyone? Like, it seems like you have a really strong network. And she just hit me up and was like, yeah, like I'm like, what about me? Like, have you considered me for this role? And I'm like, done. And when you bring on someone with this passion that's in these Discord groups of these developers, and it's like a contributor to GitHub and like all of these different things, like they have a network of just goons.
Yeah, Saman, you found someone like that as well, right?
Dude, my sweet angel Shazza that's developing TaxDaddy. I found him in like the yellow pages backlot of Fiverr.
Page 9.
Page 900.
Was this our Shazad?
This is his Shazad.
So there's 2 different Shazads.
No, same Shazad, but Shazad does work.
Yes.
Got it.
And then
we have Shazeb, which is different.
Okay, got it.
I am not exaggerating or stretching this in any capacity when I say this. We have built questions within our interview questionnaires of whether they used to play World of Warcraft, RuneScape, if they're into gaming, if they like Reddit, if they're on GitHub. All of these these are the pockets of the goons that you're talking about. You find some of the most passionate people ever in those dark, dark forums.
Yeah.
Like, I want somebody that's lurking on 4chan, even though that's super aggressive. But like, if you're in these pockets,
I completely agree.
You know, you're so connected with what the fuck is going on. And you want it to be that guy in his den that has nothing to his name but a dirty wife beater and a $3,000 custom PC that he built somewhere in the world.
It's just an early indicator to success. It's almost like a guarantee.
Because if you look at all of us, what did we all have in common when we were younger? We played a shit ton of video games. We were into, like, I would say very like low budget forms of like hacking or doing whatever you could do. And it's like, you find people like this, you know what their evolution is going to be.
They're people that love to figure things out, to create, to do things that are new, and they're hungry for more.
And they haven't been institutionalized.
That's a very sexy way of saying we're all bred from the darkness and the goonery of something somewhat sketchy in the underworld.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think like a lot of these affiliate marketers, like not the ones that go into like the MLM, the lazy ones, but the ones that can actually create shit out of like affiliate offers and use technology. It's like, you find that person and they did a good job of it, they'll be great.
For sure.
They'll be excellent.
You give them a platform. And I think what's really important about this is the fact that they're not institutionalized. And I like the word that you're using. You don't want to put them in the confines of a 9-to-5, which is why the project-based thing works so well. You give them an objective and you say, these are the things that I need. These are some time frames. I don't give a fuck when you do it.
And they'll get it done
just
3 days with no sleep whatsoever.
That's it. And then they fuck off for 2 months because they got paid. Everything is taken care of. But what's going to end up happening is you give them something harder. You give them something warmier. You give them more money and they just keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to learn. And it kind of goes away from the way that people standardly hire, which is like, all right, what's their resume look like? What does that look like there? What is like, how corporate is it? Oh, do they work at Deloitte? Like one of our best hires, if not our best hire that I think we have here at TalentPop.
Your angel? The unnamed angel
was brought on board, and like when I interviewed her, she was a freelancer before in hand. And it was like one of those things where she was like a little bit embarrassed to be like a freelancer doing things. And it was like that when I heard freelancer, that told me right away.
I think I'm in.
You know how to acquire customers. You know how to maintain the relationship of customers. You know how to do great work. You're obviously hungry and can figure things out on your own. Those are huge, huge signals of great things.
And at the very least, if they don't have all those skills, you know for damn sure they're trying.
Yeah.
And that's really important.
So what's the lesson in all this? The lesson is there's more than one way to find great talent, and you have to be creative in your approach. You got to shoot from the hip.
Well, what's the least common denominator of all of this? I think is very important to look at. And like what I always identify, we hire a lot of people in-house, but whenever we're looking for someone internally, what I tell our team is like, I'm just looking for someone that's passionate about something. I don't care what it is that they're passionate about. I don't care if it's video games that you're passionate about. I don't care if it's sports that you're passionate about. I don't care if it's working out that you're passionate about. I don't care if it's Disney that you're passionate about. I don't care if it's music. If you need to be passionate about something and go, and the deeper all into that thing that you go, the better. If you are a passionate, Arman says pinball player,
that's
dude,
dark.
That's big. That's gold standard. But if you're a passionate coder, 10 out of 10.
That's your angel.
Dude, that is, if you are passionate about, if you are a moderator on a GitHub forum,
it's game over.
That's my love language.
I have built so much rapport and lost and made so much money with random 16-year-olds that turned $1,000 into 30 grand trading. And I'm in these Discord channels with them all day long, trolling, and hitting jackpots. And it's just like, there's nothing warmer of a feeling than that and having somebody like that by your side. It's just the best. But I will say this. I want to put out a caveat. If you're hiring like upper management, you want them to be institutionalized.
Absolutely.
You want the resume, you want the credentials, you want all that jazz. We're talking about like the shoot from the hip.
Get her dones.
The get her going.
People that are
gals
going to
or
actually
guys.
truly execute on the task, not someone that's going to come up with a strategy.
And I almost want these people to not be managed. The more you put parameters around them, the more you shit the bed. You just want them to work in their own silo, keep them happy. And I think the lesson that we can learn from this is for us to invest all of our money in Mountain Dew and Doritos, and we'll be off.
And that's all we got, you guys.
Yeah, guys, this is a good episode here. We talked about a lot of things, 2 diverse topics, but I think there's a lot of really interesting things that can be taken away from this conversation in terms of how you think about your next investment, how you evaluate a company, how you continue to innovate, and then how do you find your next talent, and what are the things that you should be thinking about? What are you things that you should be really looking for in those candidates? So good podcast.
I loved it. These are the current events that I love talking about. It's cool to talk about our agencies and stuff like that, but like this is just a conversation that the boys are having and a couple other people get to listen to it, and I really enjoy these.
But I want more than a couple people to enjoy and watch these. So guys, give us a share, give us some love, subscribe, do all the above. Your Fifth Friend podcast. We're here for you. We'll see you on the next episode.